At the graduation ceremony, my ex-girlfriend walked onto the stage hand in hand with her senior. "Next month, we're getting married. Please join us," she said. The entire audience turned to me, their eyes filled with sympathy and awkwardness. I smiled and raised my paper cup. "Congratulations. After 3 years together." She said I couldn't give her the life she wanted. No one saw the full scholarship acceptance letter from Stanford in my suitcase and a transoceanic ticket for the day after tomorrow. The June sunlight beat down on the graduation caps, reflecting blinding white light in patches. I stood in the 7th row of the auditorium, the zipper on the collar of my gown catching a stray thread, making my neck itch. Hundreds of people around me were clapping, their phones held up densely in the air. The principal finished reading the final words of encouragement on stage, and the phrase, "A bright future ahead," echoed through the microphone, mingling with the reverberations as it spread. I clapped twice and prepared to leave. Then Johann stepped onto the stage. He wasn't wearing a graduation gown. Instead, he wore a 3-piece suit, and the chain clasp on his cuff flashed briefly under the lights. MBA graduates had a separate segment with one representative chosen each year to speak a few words. He had been selected as this year's outstanding graduate representative. A decision made a month ago. Nothing unusual. What was unusual was that he didn't come down after speaking. "Taking this opportunity, I'd like to share some good news with everyone," he said, standing at the center of the stage and extending his hand toward the audience. Su Wanqing stood up from the 2nd row. She was wearing a white dress I had never seen before. Her hair was down, and she walked up the steps in stiletto heels. Johann took her hand. Their fingers intertwined, and the two of them stood side by side in front of the microphone. The buzzing in the auditorium suddenly quieted down a notch. "We're getting married next month, and we hope you can all make it." Zhou Hanwen's voice wasn't loud, but the microphone carried every word to every corner of the auditorium. There was silence for about 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, I heard someone behind me gasp sharply. A girl on the left murmured quietly, "No way," and the chair on the right creaked slightly. Someone had turned to look at me, then more people turned around. Those gazes came at me like thin needles, all directed in the same direction. I recognized the owners of those eyes, classmates from 4 years of school, people who had rushed to finish homework together, played basketball, shared tables in the cafeteria, and claimed seats in the library. They were familiar faces. Their expressions when looking at me were also quite uniform. The corners of their mouths were tight, their eyebrows slightly furrowed, their eyes unable to meet mine directly, yet unable to resist glancing over. Sympathy, awkwardness. There were a few pairs of eyes that held a different kind of light. The faint but unmistakable excitement of someone anticipating a spectacle. The whole school knew that Lucy Ai and Su Wanqing had been together for 3 years. The whole school also knew that since last semester, Su Wanqing had been getting close to Zhou Hanwen from the MBA program. But no one knew that he would choose this occasion in this manner, in front of hundreds of people, to turn it into a public execution on stage. Su Wanqing didn't look at me. She lowered her head slightly, a faint smile on her lips, and leaned her shoulder a little closer to Zhou Hanwen. That gesture was all too familiar to me. In the past, she used to lean toward me. Zhou Hanwen did glance at me, across 7 rows of seats, across the 1.2 m height difference between the stage and the audience. His gaze landed precisely on my face. It wasn't a challenge, but something even more unsettling. It was a confident, composed, everything is under control kind of scrutiny, like someone looking at a chess game they've already won, casually glancing at the checkmated piece. Lin Su beside me gripped the armrest of his chair. His knuckles were white, his teeth clenched so tightly that 2 hard lumps bulged on his cheeks. I could feel his whole body trembling, not from fear, but from anger. I reached out and pressed my hand against his wrist. Then I picked up the disposable paper cup on the table, which held half a cup of cold mineral water. I raised it toward the stage. "Congratulations, senior. Congratulations, Wanqing." My voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet atmosphere, people in the surrounding 3 or 4 rows heard it. Someone froze. Someone opened their mouth. Someone's gaze shifted from sympathy to something more complex. Perhaps the sense that I was pitiful to the point of dignity. Su Wanqing finally raised her head and glanced at me. Too far away. I couldn't make out her expression, but her hand moved slightly in Zhou Hanwen's palm, like she wanted to pull it away, or perhaps she gripped it even tighter. I left before the ceremony ended. The bachelor's gown was neatly folded by the trash bin on the second-floor corridor, with the graduation cap placed on top, like an unclaimed package. Pushing open the glass door of the dormitory building, the heat of June enveloped me head-on. The cicadas chirping erupted into a cacophony, and from the distant auditorium, it seemed like someone was clapping, perhaps for some other event, but it had nothing to do with me anymore. The dorm room was empty, for beds, 3 of them already stripped of their bedding, leaving only bare mattresses and rolled-up bamboo mats. Mine was the one by the window, with a gray suitcase placed beside the pillow, its zipper half open. I sat down on the edge of the bed, pulled the suitcase over, and unzipped it. The clothes were neatly folded with a transparent file folder pressed on top. Inside the file folder were 2 items. An A4 sheet of paper with the words Stanford University in red printed on the header. First line of the main text, "Dear Mr. Lucy I. We are pleased to offer you admission to the Ph.D. program in computer science with a full scholarship. A plane ticket one way from Pudong to San Francisco at 2:40 p.m. the day after tomorrow." I pressed the file folder back in place and zipped it up. The cicadas outside the window are still chirping. My phone vibrated once. It was a message from the class group chat. Someone posted a photo of the stage showing Zhou Xianwen and Su Wanqing holding hands with a caption below wishing you happiness. It was followed by a row of rose and heart emojis. Further down, someone at Demi sending only a single. I flipped my phone onto the bed and lay down on my back. There was a long, thin crack on the ceiling stretching from the light fixture to the corner of the wall. It had been there for 4 years. Ever since I moved in, I stared at that crack for a long time. Then I laughed. It's not a bitter smile, nor is it some forced nonchalance. It's like this. When you have 2 paths in front of you, one is muddy ground and the other is a runway, and everyone assumes you can only take the muddy path. You glance down at the boarding pass in your hand. That kind of smile. When Lin Shu kicked the door open and walked in, I had just stuffed the last pair of shoes into the suitcase. Lucy His voice seemed squeezed out from the depths of his throat, hoarse and carrying a fire that hadn't been released. Are you just going to let it go like that? I scraped off a clump of mud stuck to the sole of my shoe, not turning around. What does it count as? Damn it. Lin Shu kicked over the empty water bucket by the door. The plastic bucket bounced twice on the ground and rolled into the corner. At the graduation ceremony, in front of the whole school, is he even human? I pressed down on the suitcase, but the zipper wouldn't close, leaving a corner bulging out. I crouched down, pressed my knee against the surface of the suitcase, and pulled the zipper section by section. Of course he's human, and he's living quite respectably at that. You. Lin Xian turned red-faced, clenching his fists and spinning in place before plopping down on the bare bed opposite. What on earth are you thinking? I zipped up my jacket and stood, brushing off my hands, thinking about how many long-sleeved shirts to pack. San Francisco has a big temperature difference between day and night, 25 or 6 degrees during the day, but it drops to 12 or 13 at night. Lin Xian was stunned. He stared at me with his mouth open, as if I had spoken a foreign language he couldn't understand at all. I reached under the pillow and pulled out the transparent file folder. Handing it to him, he took it, opened it, and pulled out the A4 sheet of paper. The dorm room fell silent for about 10 seconds. The cicadas chirping seeped through the gauze window, dense and sharp. Stanford. Lin Xian's voice changed, as if a thorn had suddenly lodged in his throat. Full doctoral. Yeah. When did you get it? April. He suddenly looked up. April. You got it in April. Then why didn't I say it? I finished the sentence for him, taking the document folder back and stuffing it into the side pocket of the suitcase. Because there's nothing worth saying. Lin Xian stared at me for a long time, then slowly leaned against the wall and covered his face with both hands. His shoulders are trembling. I thought he was angry, but when he lowered his hand, his eyes were reddened around the edges. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling. Couldn't you have told me earlier? I almost charged up there and started punching people. You'd have made the news. Brawl breaks out at graduation ceremony. You think your sports major thesis defense would have been for nothing. He was momentarily speechless, rolled his eyes, then looked down again, staring at the dented water bucket on the ground. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Does Wanchi know?" "I don't know. You didn't tell her. What happened after the breakup?" "There's no need to tell her. The breakup happened at the end of March. It was drizzling that night as I left the lab, and Su Wanchi was waiting for me under the chemistry building. She was holding a transparent umbrella, and from a distance, she looked like a silhouette pasted against the damp glow of the streetlights. I thought she had come to pick me up. It wasn't until I got closer that I saw her expression. Her lips pressed into a straight line, her eyes unfocused, looking at me as if I were a report with a conclusion already written. "Lucy, let's break up." Raindrops pattered against the umbrella. Tap, tap, tap. I stood in the rain without an umbrella, water streaming down my forehead, blurring her face. "What's the reason? You can't give me the life I want." She probably rehearsed this line in advance, speaking evenly, without pause, like reciting a script. "What kind of life?" She didn't answer, but her gaze passed over my shoulder toward the parking lot, where a black BMW was parked, its headlights on, the wipers slowly sweeping across the windshield. I followed her line of sight through the car window. I saw the passenger side sun visor flip down, with an air freshener hanging from the mirror. There was no one in the driver's seat. The person was in the back, holding a phone, the screen's light illuminating a face with sharp features. Xiao Hanwen. I withdrew my gaze and looked at Su Wanqing. Her eyelashes trembled slightly in the shadow of the umbrella. "I don't want to hold you back," she added. "You're not holding me back," I said. "You're choosing a path that seems safer." Her fingers tightened around the umbrella handle, her nails digging into the plastic until the tips turned white. "You can think of it that way." Then she turned and walked away. The transparent umbrella disappeared toward the parking lot. An engine started and the tail lights trailed 2 red lines through the rain, gliding toward the school gate. I stood in the rain for about 2 minutes, then returned to the lab, wiped his face and continued debugging the code. Submitted the final version of the paper revision at 3 a.m. 2 weeks later, he received an offer from Stanford. After hearing this, Lin Shuya fell into a long silence. Finally, he stood up and walked in front of me, extending his hand. "Show me your ticket." I handed him the ticket. He flipped it over and over, then said, "Afternoon flight, Pudong T2, the day after tomorrow. I'll take you." "No need." "Shut up. I'm taking you." He returned the ticket to me, then stopped at the door. "Everyone in the class group is spreading rumors that you've been cheated on. Let them talk. You really don't care." I stood my suitcase upright and pushed it to the door. "Lin Shuya, do you think a plane preparing to take off would care what someone on the side of the runway is shouting?" He paused for a moment, then slowly smiled. "Fine." He tapped the door frame. "Then you go ahead and fly." After the door closed, I opened my phone. The class group chat message count was already at 99 plus. I didn't click in. I exited WeChat and opened my email. The top email was from the Stanford CS department. "Dear Lucy your advisor Professor Michael Chan is looking forward to meeting you. Please confirm your arrival date at your earliest convenience." I typed a line of text and sent it back. "Arriving June 20th. Thank you." Sent. Then he placed his phone beside the pillow and turned off the light. In the darkness, the streetlight outside filtered through the gauze window screen, casting a blurry patch of light on the ceiling. The crack is still there, but I won't have to look at it anymore tomorrow. There was a farewell dinner the next evening. It wasn't organized by the class, but rather a gathering arranged by a few close classmates. They booked a barbecue restaurant outside the south gate of the school. Private room on the 2nd floor, and about 20 people showed up. Lin Su absolutely refused to let me go. "What are you going there for?" "To let them keep laughing at you. They're my classmates of 4 years. What's wrong with having a farewell dinner?" "You." He took a deep breath. "Fine." I'll go with you. On the way there, he walked on my left like a personal bodyguard, his shoulders tense and his chin slightly raised, looking as if he was ready to throw a punch at anyone who dared to glance my way. When I pushed open the door to the private room, the buzzing inside dropped a notch. It wasn't a sudden silence, but more like someone had turned down the volume on a mixing board by one notch. The conversations didn't stop, but the collective volume dropped by 30%. A few people glanced back at me, their smiles freezing for a fraction of a second, then quickly returning. Brother CI is here. Come sit, come sit. I saved a spot for you over here. I glanced around. There was a large long table in the middle of the private room, surrounded by people. The seats were almost all taken, leaving only 2 spots near the entrance at the other end of the table. Zhou Hanwen sat in the middle position. He changed into a black polo shirt with a collar standing up, his right arm resting on the back of Su Wanqing's chair, fingers casually draped over her shoulder. Su Wanqing sat beside him, her hair tied up, wearing a pair of pearl earrings I hadn't seen before. Seeing me come in, Zhao Hanwen smiled slightly. That smile was subtle, the upward curve of his lips precisely balanced between friendly and condescending. Su Wanqing lowered her head, picked up the cup on the table, and took a sip of water without looking at me. I sat down, and Lin Su sat beside me. As soon as his butt touched the chair, he snatched the menu and started ordering. So quickly it seemed like he was executing a military mission. While waiting for the skewers to arrive, the conversation inevitably turned to future plans. I signed with CICC starting next month. I got into my school's graduate program, continuing with Professor Zhang. I'm going back to my hometown to take the civil service exam. Passed the written test. Interview next week. As we went around the circle, each person spoke while the others chimed in with a few words. Awesome. That's great. Solid. Solid. When it was my turn, the air tensed up subtly once again. Zhao Yiming, sitting across from me, held his wine glass, his expression a mix of constipation and pity. Brother CI, what about you? Any plans? At the other end of the table, Zhao Hanwen also looked over, lightly tapping Su Wanqing's shoulder twice with his finger. I picked up a skewer of lamb and put it in my mouth, chewing a couple of times. Going abroad. A brief silence. Going abroad. Where to? Zhao Yiming's tone carried a cautious enthusiasm, as if afraid that any word might touch upon some sensitive territory. America. What for? PhD. Zhao Hanwen's smile widened a little. He leaned back in his chair, his posture relaxed as if he were in his own living room. Getting a PhD is great. He spoke up, his voice not loud, but the NBA-trained way of speaking gave each word an unconscious sense of authority. But in the current environment, even with a PhD, it's hard to find a job. I have a friend who came back from MIT, spent half a year sending out resumes in Beijing, and ended up at a startup making $15,000. He picked up his beer glass, took a sip, his tone light and casual. Of course, learning is always a good thing. Take your time. Someone nearby let out a dry laugh and chimed in with a few, yes, yes, yes. Lin Su's chopsticks tapped against the tabletop with a crisp sound. I pressed down on his knee. The senior is right. I nodded, my expression calm. Take your time. Su Wanqing's gaze shifted away from her water glass, quickly glanced at me, and then turned away again. Her lips moved slightly as if she wanted to say something, but Zhou Hanwen's fingers tightened a little on her shoulder, and she remained silent. The topic was diverted, shifting to other things. Someone's graduation trip to Yunnan. Someone else's cat giving birth to 4 kittens. After a few rounds of drinks, the atmosphere loosened, and laughter gradually overshadowed the earlier subtle tension. In the middle of it all, I went to the restroom. On my way back, I passed by the window at the end of the hallway, and my phone vibrated in my pocket. I took it out and glanced at it. It was an email notification, the sender's name, a long string of English letters, with the header reading Stanford University. First line of the main text, Dear Lucy, we are delighted to inform you that your welcome package has been prepared. It was followed by a campus checklist, dorm assignments, meeting times with advisors, and instructions for picking up lab access cards. The hallway was quiet, the laughter from the private room muffled as it came through the door. I finished reading the email, locked the screen, and slipped it back into my pocket. Back in the private room, Zhou Hanwen was talking about his honeymoon plans. The Maldives, overwater villas, private pools. He described it vividly, and the few people beside him listened with sparkling eyes. Su Wanqing sat next to him, a reserved smile playing at the corner of her mouth. Her hand rested on the table, and on the ring finger of her left hand was a ring studded with a circle of small diamonds that gleamed brightly under the light. I sat down without making a sound. Lin Su leaned in and lowered his voice. "Let's go. What's the point of staying here? Let's sit a little longer. It's the farewell dinner." I picked up an unopened can of beer, pulled the tab, and took a sip. "We might not see each other again in the future." Lin Su was taken aback by my tone. He probably sensed something. Not sadness, not reluctance, but a sense of detachment, calm and distant, as if looking down from a height, separated from everyone at the table by a layer of transparent glass. It was already past 10 when the gathering ended. The streetlights on the road below stretched everyone's shadows long and crooked across the asphalt. Zhou Hanwen had his arm around Su Wanqing as they walked ahead, the car keys spinning in his hand, and the lights of the black BMW flickered in the distance. Before getting into the car, Su Wanqing hesitated for a second and glanced back at me. The streetlight illuminated her face, and I saw something very complex in her expression. Not guilt, nor entirely unease. More like someone standing at a crossroads, looking back at the path they had taken, wanting to confirm whether they had chosen the right way. I nodded at her. Then I turned and headed toward the dormitory. Lin Su caught up with me, and after a few steps, asked, "Did you go on purpose?" "What? The farewell dinner. You could have skipped it. Did you intentionally let them see how calm you were?" I didn't answer. After walking a dozen steps, I said, "The flight is at 2:40 tomorrow afternoon. You don't need to come too early. Just get there by 1. The black BMW behind us started up, passing by without slowing down. Its tail lights trailed 2 red streaks in the night, vanishing in a flash. Lin Shua watched the direction where the car had disappeared, then exhaled. "That car is only around 400,000 to 500,000. He suddenly said. I glanced at him. I checked. He said with a tone of stubborn seriousness, "It's a 320 li, priced at 480,000. On the road. He even paid in installments." I let out a small laugh, going, "I still have to pack things tomorrow." 3 days after I left, Lin Shua did something I hadn't asked him to do. He posted a screenshot in the class group chat. It was a post from my moments, something I had casually shared after landing at San Francisco International Airport. A photo of a baggage carousel with the location tagged as San Francisco International Airport. The caption was just 2 words, "Landed." The group chat fell silent for 10 minutes. Then the messages exploded. "Lucy, I went to the US San Francisco." "Which school? Wasn't he supposed to do a PhD? Where did he go for that?" Lin Shua didn't answer immediately. He waited for about half an hour, letting the questions pile up to over 20 messages, then leisurely typed a line. "Stanford, CS PhD full scholarship." He didn't add a period after this sentence, nor did he include any emojis, just 6 clean words, thrown into the group chat. I saw the chat history later. The group chat fell silent again. The silence was different from the one at the graduation ceremony. That time it was an awkward silence. Not knowing what to say. This time it was a shock. Not knowing whether to believe it. 30 seconds later, Zhao Yiming was the first to speak. "Is this real? Stanford. That's Stanford. Full scholarship CS. Isn't that top 3 in the world?" Lin Su sent a second screenshot. My admission letter, with the red university emblem at the top and the words full scholarship clearly printed. He cropped it from the photo I sent him and the date was in April. No one spoke up after that, but the number of people who had read the message kept rising. In a class group of 320 people, the usual response rate to messages was less than 10%. That night, The number of people who had read the message soared to 260 within 20 minutes. I could imagine those fingers swiping across the screen, taking screenshots, forwarding messages, sending private chats. Half an hour later, the group chat from the class next door found out. Then the larger group of our cohort. Then the college-wide group. That night I was packing things in my dorm at Stanford and my phone kept vibrating nonstop. Most of them were private messages from classmates I hadn't been very close to before, suddenly appearing out of nowhere. Brother CI, I heard you went to Stanford. That's awesome. Senior, do you remember me? The one who sat behind you in the sophomore elective class. Can I add you as a friend? You're amazing. Can we chat about your application experience sometime? I didn't reply to any of them. It's not that I'm putting on airs. There's just really nothing to say. However, there was one message that caught my eye for a couple of seconds. Su Wanqing. She sent a comma and then withdrew it. Then she typed another line. When are you? But didn't send it. It showed the other party is typing for a long time. Then disappeared. I placed my phone face down on the table and continued unpacking my luggage. Outside the window was the California sky, unnaturally blue. With palm tree leaves rustling in the wind, the next day Professor Chun posted an article on the school's official website. The title was Our School's Computer Science Student Lucy I Admitted to Stanford University with Full Scholarship. The content was concise but included several pieces of information I hadn't proactively shared. During his undergraduate studies, Mr. Lucy I published 2 papers as first author in IEEE Tommy with research focus on deep learning and computer vision. His graduation project, a real-time object detection system based on multimodal feature fusion, has applied for a national invention patent. Professor Michael Chun from Stanford University's Department of Computer Science wrote in his recommendation, Mr. Liu is one of the most talented young researchers I have encountered in the past decade. The post was shared by the college's official account and then by the university's official account. The number of views exceeded 20,000 within a single day. The top voted comment in the comments section is this the one who was officially announced at the graduation ceremony. The replies below tangled into a mess. Some people deleted and reposted. Others posted and deleted. The atmosphere of unspoken words almost overflowing from the screen. That afternoon Lin Chua sent me a voice message. His voice was soft as if afraid of being overheard. Shan Qing saw the push notification. MHM. She had lunch with Zhou Hanwen in the cafeteria. After checking her phone, her expression changed. Zhou Hanwen asked her what was wrong, and she said nothing, but she left before finishing her meal. I folded a sweatshirt and put it in the closet, saying nothing. Zhou Hanwen said in his MBA class group. Lin Chua paused, mimicking the tone with exaggerated disdain. What's the point of studying well? Degrees can't be eaten. My first-year salary was 400,000 yuan. He'll get at least 300,000 after finishing his PhD. But who knows what job he'll even find. And then someone posted the link to the IEEE paper mentioned in Professor Chen's push. A senior also in CS said, you can count on one hand the number of undergraduates in the country who've published 2 papers in Tommy. If this guy doesn't pursue a PhD, it'd be a waste of talent. What did Johan Win say? Nothing. No one in the group responded to him after that. I closed the closet door, walked to the window, and pushed it open. The evening breeze from California blew in, dry, warm, carrying an unfamiliar scent, completely different from the past 4 years. The phone vibrated again. It was Su Wanqing. This time, she sent a complete sentence. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I looked at those words, thought about it for about 5 seconds, then closed the chat window. It's not that I didn't want to answer the question. Itself is the answer. If she needs my achievements to stay, then the very reason for her staying is the reason for me to let go. I placed my phone on the charging cable, turned on the computer, and began reviewing the list of literature sent by my advisor. The title of the first paper was very long. I entered the keywords into the search system, and the database quickly generated results. The screen is filled with English, densely packed. A new world has been laid out before me. The old one can stay. On the other side of the Pacific, on the 11th day at Stanford, my Tommy paper was officially published. Actually, the manuscript was accepted in March. But the layout and publication process of academic journals is like an old gear machine, moving slowly and reluctantly. I received the proof in April, finalized the corrections in May, and it only officially appeared on the website at the end of June. I didn't actively promote it, but news spreads in academia without my help. The day after the paper went live, a citation alert popped up on Google Scholar. Someone had already cited my work in a newly submitted manuscript. On the third day, the CEO of a self-driving car startup retweeted the paper link on Twitter with a comment. This is an elegant solution to the real-time detection bottleneck. Whoever this loose CIA is, keep an eye on him. On the fourth day, my advisor Michael Chan retweeted that post adding, "He's in my lab now." All of this happened in the English-speaking world, and it shouldn't have had much to do with my classmates back home. But the academic world has no walls. A senior studying at CMU brought the news to Jihu answering a question. What level does it take for a Chinese undergraduate to publish a paper in a top-tier journal? In his response, he mentioned my name, attached a screenshot of the paper, and concluded with, "Honestly, work of this caliber would be considered outstanding even among PhD graduates, and he's an undergraduate." Within 3 days, that answer received over 4,000 upvotes. In the comments section, someone dug up my undergraduate university and the graduation ceremony incident. I don't know who leaked the details, but the internet's memory runs much deeper than I thought. Someone clipped a segment from the graduation ceremony, the scene where Zhou Hanwen held Su Wanqing's hand on stage and captioned it with a line, "This is the Stanford full scholarship PhD, who got publicly announced as married by his ex-girlfriend at the graduation ceremony." The heat was on. When Lin Su messaged me, his tone had shifted from anger to a kind of exhilarated, vengeful satisfaction. "Did you know that Jihu answer got reposted on our school's confession wall?" The comment section is full of people trashing Su Wanqing and Zhou Hanwen. One comment said, "What kind of taste is this? Throwing away a diamond to pick up glass." It got 2,000 likes. Stop sharing it. I didn't share it. The spreading on its own. I could picture the fingers behind those screens. Screenshots, reposts, tagging friends. The one sitting on the judgment seat wasn't me. It was Su Wanqing and Johan Wen. But I didn't feel happy. To be precise, I didn't have time to feel happy or unhappy. During those days, my schedule was arrive at the lab at 9 a.m., discuss research directions with my advisor in the afternoon, read literature until 1 a.m. at night. On weekends, I'd go to the nearby supermarket to buy a week's worth of food, cook rice in an electric rice cooker, and survive on frozen dumplings. The first year of a Stanford CS PhD is purgatory. Every week at group meetings, you have to report on your paper progress. The senior students in the group come from MIT, Berkeley, Tsinghua. They talk at machine gun speed during discussions, firing one question after another. When you can't answer, your whole face burns as if sandpapered. But this pain is one I chose. Unlike the passive, public, inescapable embarrassment of a graduation ceremony, this pain has direction. It has an end. Every time I'm stumped by a question, it means a new gap in my knowledge has been uncovered. Every gap I fill brings me one step closer to where I want to go. Domestic affairs continue to unfold, separated by the Pacific Ocean. Those disturbances feel like sounds transmitted through water, vague in outline, but the vibrations are palpable. Lin Shua sends me messages. Intermittently, Su Wanqing deleted all the WeChat moments she posted on the day of the graduation ceremony. Johan Wen was repeatedly mocked in the NBA alumni group. And finally, he directly left the group. Someone started a post on the school's BBS with the title "A Look at the Alumni Who Have Thrived the Most After Graduation." And I was the first one nominated, with the reason being the only one who published in Tommy as an undergraduate. Su Wanqing called me at 2 a.m. 11 a.m. in San Francisco time. I was running a model in the lab when I saw the incoming call and paused for a second. That name hadn't been changed yet. Wanqing, followed by a sun emoji, which she had originally set as her nickname. I stared at the spinning progress bar on the screen for 3 seconds. Then I turned it off. Not a decision made after hesitation. It's an instinct, like you're already on the highway and in your rearview mirror. A car is flashing its lights. signaling you to stop. But instead of hitting the brakes, you press the accelerator. 10 seconds later, she sends a WeChat message. Can you take a call? I don't reply. After a minute, she sent another message. I just want to ask you one question. I glanced at it, swiped the chat window to the left, and set it to mute notifications. The lab's air conditioner hums softly, and the model's loss curve slowly converged on the screen. The blue line dipped lower and lower, like a river gradually calming down. I pulled my focus back and started typing the next piece of code. The keyboard made crisp sounds, each keystroke popping out one by one in the empty lab. Sunlight from outside the window seeped through the slats of the blinds, casting striped patterns of light on the wall, quiet and still. In these light patterns, I found something long forgotten, not happiness, nor peace. It was certainty. I know what I'm doing and I know where I'm going. It's a feeling I haven't experienced in a long time, not since the final year of that relationship. In mid-July, I posted a photo on my social media feed, the main entrance of the Stanford Gates Computer Science Building, with the afternoon sun casting a glow on the red brick wall, making it look like a piece of heated iron. Caption: A new beginning. This is the second post I've made since coming to the US. It looks casual, but the timing was calculated by me because that day, July 15th, was the wedding date printed on the invitation for Johan Win and Su Wanqing. Before posting the update, I hesitated for about 10 seconds. It wasn't about whether to post it or not, but whether this act could be considered petty. Then I remembered the gazes that turned toward me at the graduation ceremony. Those sympathetic, awkward, and watchful eyes. I remember Johan Win's words at the farewell dinner. Even with a PhD, it's hard to find a job. I remembered the look Su Wanqing gave me before getting into the car. Sent. The effect was greater than I had anticipated because the comparison on the timeline was too direct. Above was the location tag for Johan Win's wedding hotel forwarded by a classmate. A 4-star, not 5-star, with someone in the comments saying, "Downgraded. Ha, didn't you say it was the Maldives before?" Below was my Stanford. A single photo for words quietly posted there. Didn't say anything, but said everything. Likes reached over 300 within an hour. The most common comments were ellipses suggesting unspoken words or thumbs-up emojis were all adults. No one spells it out, but each like is like a silent vote. Lin Shu sent me a voice message laughing so hard. He was almost out of breath. "You finally did something that made me feel good. I just posted a photo." Exactly. You just posted a photo. You really just posted a photo. Ha ha ha. After laughing, he suddenly lowered his voice. Wanqing's wedding has been scaled down. What do you mean? The venue was changed from the Hyatt to some business hotel downtown. The number of tables was also reduced. Originally planned for 30. Now it seems there are only a dozen or so. What's the reason? I heard Johan Win's father's company ran into some trouble. Not a broken capital chain, but an investment project was halted. The details aren't clear, but his family hasn't been doing well lately. It has nothing to do with me. I know it has nothing to do with you, but don't you think karma comes quickly? I didn't respond to that because I truly believe it has nothing to do with me. Zhao Hanwen's family business, his cash flow, his investment decisions. These things are beyond my understanding. I have no ability to influence them, nor any interest in doing so. But another thing had to do with me. That same evening, Lin Shuerao sent me a chat screenshot. It was a conversation between Su Wanqing and her best friend, taken by her friend, Su Wanqing. He posted something on his moments about Stanford. "Friend, I saw it. Su Wanqing. Today is my wedding. Friend, do you think he did it on purpose?" Su Wanqing didn't reply to that message, but she sent another one. What was he really doing all those nights in the lab back then? Best friend, you're only wondering about it now. The conversation ended there. After reading the screenshot, I typed, "Stop showing me these in the chat box," then deleted it and replaced it with an "after sending it." I turned off my phone and walked to the window. The night in San Francisco is different from that in China. It gets dark very late. Even at 9, there's still a faint red glow in the west. There's no cicada chirping. and the wind carries the scent of seawater and eucalyptus. I suddenly remembered that winter during my sophomore year. Su Wanqing waited for me in the library. By the time the library closed, I hadn't yet left the lab. She sent a message. Do you not remember what day it is today? That day marked our 1-year anniversary. When I rushed back, she was standing downstairs in front of the dormitory, her nose red from the cold, her scarf pulled down below her eyes, leaving only her eyes visible as she looked at me. I apologized, but she ignored me. Yet, after walking 10 steps, she reached out and hooked her little finger around mine. That night was cold, but her fingertips were warm. Later, those fingertips gradually grew cold. Not because of the weather. It's because I never truly stepped out of the lab, and what she needed, companionship, responsiveness, a sense of being prioritized, couldn't give her. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It was that, at that stage, I could only focus on one thing. I chose the lab. She chose Johan Win. We all made our choices. There's no right or wrong. It's just that she shouldn't have done that at the graduation ceremony. That wasn't a breakup. It was a meticulously orchestrated, publicly declared exit ceremony. She trampled my dignity on the red carpet. For that, I will not forgive. As for the rest, those days spent together, those reddened noses from the cold and warm fingertips, I folded them neatly, placed them in a sealed box, and pushed it to the deepest corner of my memory. No hatred, but I won't open it again. In the second week of August, something happened to my patent. To say happened is actually inaccurate. This matter had been brewing since April, but at that time I was busy with graduation and going abroad, and had no energy to push it forward. After arriving at Stanford, Professor Michael Chun reviewed all the code and technical documentation of my graduation project. He remained silent for a long time after reading it, then said one sentence. "Lou, do you know what you're sitting on? I know the multimodal real-time detection system I designed solves a tough problem that the industry has been grappling with for 3 years, simultaneously processing visual, radar, and LiDAR signals on edge devices with limited computing power to achieve millisecond-level target recognition. Academic value is one thing, commercial value is another." Michael helped me get in touch with the Stanford Technology Transfer Office. After evaluating the commercial potential of the entire patent portfolio, they came up with a figure: $1, $2 million. This is the patent licensing offer from an autonomous driving company. Not an outright purchase, but an annual licensing fee. The contract is for a minimum of 3 years. Converted to RMB, that's over 25 million for 3 years. The news was relayed back to the country through Professor Chun. Professor Chun mentioned it in the college's work group chat. His tone was restrained, but the key figures were not ambiguous. Then the college included this matter in its annual achievements report. Lu Shuai, a graduate of the class of 2024 from our college, has had his invention patent real-time object detection system based on multimodal feature fusion licensed by a well-known American technology company for an annual fee exceeding the $1 million level. The wording was very official, and the figure was described vaguely as the $1 million level. But within our circle, those who needed to know were already aware of the exact number because Lu Shua had forwarded the message unchanged to the class group chat. This time, he didn't wait half an hour. He sent it out at 8 p.m. Beijing time. Within 3 minutes, over 80 messages flooded the group chat. Most of them were exclamation marks. Someone also did the math seriously. An annual licensing fee of 1 to 2 million USD. A 3-year contract. And that's just for one company. If this technology is applied across the entire autonomous driving industry. Wait, he developed this as his undergraduate thesis. An undergraduate thesis is worth that much. It's not about whether it's worth it or not. It's about this technology being a bottleneck for the industry. Whoever secures the license first gets to mass produce first. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Amidst these messages, there was one particularly short one from Zhao Yiming. So, when he said he was going abroad at the farewell dinner, he meant he was going to Stanford to work on this. No one answered him. But everyone was thinking the same thing at the graduation ceremony. The person who was publicly humiliated and pitted in front of the entire school held a trump card worth tens of millions in their hand. Without uttering a single word, he just smiled, picked up the paper cup, and said, "Congratulations." Zhou Hanwen also saw the news. This matter was later told to me by Lin Chua, and the source of the information was a senior who worked at the same company as Zhou Hanwen. He was in the office when he saw that message, and his fingers tapped on the desk for a long time, and then he called his dad. The call lasted 22 minutes. After hanging up, he sat for a while, pushed the water cup on the desk aside, and spilled a little water on the keyboard. "How do you know all this so clearly? That senior works in the same office as him. What's the point of telling me all this?" Lin Chua fell silent for a second, because the investment project that Zhou Hanwen's dad had halted was in the autonomous driving industry chain. Upstream sensors. They invested in a startup making LiDAR, which needed matching detection algorithms to ship, and your patent happens to cover the exact technical aspect they need the most. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the palm trees outside the window. The wind rustled the leaves, and sunlight filtered through the gaps, painting irregular spots of light on the ground. "You're saying Zhou Hanwen's company needs my patent?" "Not Zhou Hanwen's company. It's the startup his dad's company invested in. It's an industry chain issue. If the upstream can't deliver, their midstream investment goes down the drain. That's their business judgment problem, right? But now their business problem just happens to be blocking your patent. If you don't license it, their entire chain can't move forward." The wind paused for a second, and the palm leaves hung still in midair. Then it was stirred by the next gust of wind. "Lin Chua, I won't decide patent licensing based on personal grudges. I know, but I also won't give anyone special treatment because of personal grudges. I know. If they want licensing, follow the normal business process. Have them contact Stanford's Technology Transfer Office." "Got it." After hanging up the phone, I sat for a while. I don't feel relieved, nor do I feel regretful. It was just a confirmation that those late nights at the lab at 3 a.m., those models run over and over again, those weekends when Su Wanqing complained, "You only see code," they had become a mode of protection. This side of the river is me. On the other side of the river are all those who once thought I couldn't make it. The day Su Wanqing came to see me was the last weekend of August. Not to San Francisco. She showed up downstairs in my parents' neighborhood. The message came from my mom. "Son, your ex-girlfriend is here. She's been sitting downstairs for an hour. Did you know about this?" I didn't, but I could guess the reason. I called Lin Xian to confirm the time difference. It was 2 p.m. on a Saturday back home. Exactly 1 month since Su Wanqing married Zhou Hanwen. "What's wrong with her lately?" "Not good." Lin Xian's tone was unusually free of schadenfreude. "Zhou Hanwen's father lost a lot of money on a project. Don't know the exact amount, but the family atmosphere is terrible. Zhou Hanwen is under a lot of pressure and takes it out at home. Someone saw Wanqing sitting alone at Starbucks in the mall for an entire afternoon a couple of days ago. So, she came to my parents. Did she send you a WeChat message?" I glanced at my phone. Do Not Disturb was on, and there were over a dozen unread messages. The latest one read, "Lucy, can I talk to you?" I typed back, "You shouldn't be at my parents' place." 10 seconds later, she replied, "I know, but you don't answer my calls or reply to my messages. I don't know what else I can do to make you listen to me." For just 1 second, I stared at those words, my fingertip pausing on the screen for a few seconds. Then I initiated a voice call. She answered almost immediately, less than 2 seconds. "Lucy." Her voice was different from what I remembered. She'd lost weight. No, I meant her voice. What used to be full and slightly spoiled had become thin, dry, like a piece of paper crumpled and then unfolded. "Go ahead." She remained silent for several seconds. In the distance, the sound of car horns and children's screams drifted over from her end, mingling with the summer breeze. "I want to apologize to you, about what happened on graduation day. It was Han Wen's idea," he said. "He said he wanted to give everyone a surprise, to make me look good. He said a man should let the whole world know who he chose. At the time, I thought," her voice caught, "you thought it was romantic." I finished for her. The other end of the phone fell silent. Then her breathing changed rhythm, rapid and uneven with a faint tremor in her nostrils. She was holding back tears. I didn't know you got into Stanford. I know you didn't. If I had known. If you had known, you wouldn't have chosen him. The words were like a knife, delivered flatly, blade facing down. She didn't catch it. There was a long silence, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she said, "I'm sorry." I stood by the window, separated by 10,000 kilometers of air and a 16-hour time difference, listening to those two words. Su Wanqing listened carefully. My voice was flat, without any fluctuation, like reading a text that had been proofread many times. I don't blame you for breaking up. Everyone has the right to choose the path they think is better. You feel I can't give you the life you want. That's your judgment, and I respect it. Her breath hitched for a moment. But what happened at the graduation ceremony wasn't a breakup. It was a performance. You announced your marriage on stage, and hundreds of pairs of eyes turned to look at me. Do you know what that kind of gaze feels like? It wasn't anger. I didn't have time for anger. It was a feeling, like being picked up from the ground and put on display as if I were a returned product placed on the counter with the label facing outward, letting everyone passing by see clearly this item is sold out for a better option. Please turn right. The breathing on the other end of the phone completely shattered, intermittent, mixed with suppressed, barely audible sobs. You didn't make the wrong choice, Su Wanqing. What you got wrong was the way you did it. You turned the breakup into a public execution, making me lose the last shred of dignity in front of our four-year classmates. For that, I won't accept your apology because the harm is already done and an apology won't change the way those people look at me. She was crying, not the kind of loud wailing cry, but a quiet, continuous one like a faucet that won't quite shut off. I waited for her breathing to steady a little. But I don't hate you either. Hating someone takes too much energy. Every bit of my energy now is spent on things more worthwhile. Go back. Don't come to my parents' place anymore. It's enough for them to know I'm doing well. As for you, you chose your path, so walk it. Whether Johan one is good or bad is for you to judge, not me. She said something else, but her voice was too soft, broken apart by the wind and her sobs, and I couldn't make it out. Take care. I hung up the phone. The screen went dark, showing a call duration of 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Outside the window, the palm trees swayed in the wind, their leaves rustling softly. I stood there for a moment, then walked back to the desk, opened the literature, and continued reading. When I reached the third page, I realized I hadn't taken in a single word. I closed the document, leaned back in my chair, and shut my eyes. 6 minutes and 42 seconds. In those 6 minutes and 42 seconds, I said many correct, rational, and proper things. Every sentence is true, but there is one thing I didn't say. It's what I truly thought in my heart when she said, "If I knew you got into Stanford." That answer is just one sentence. Those late-night lab sessions at 3 a.m., you've never come to any of them. Not because she didn't know what I was doing. It's because she never once wondered. Early September, Professor Chan called me from overseas. There's an alumni academic forum at the school this fall, where we invite former graduates back to give presentations. This year, the computer science department recommended you. I've only graduated 3 months ago. There's no strict time requirement for past graduates. And honestly, your achievements and influence now rank among the top 3 in the past 10 years. The department hopes if you can come back. Please do. I thought for a moment. When? September 20th. Next Saturday. You should still be on Friday in the Pacific time. Buy a ticket for Friday, and you'll arrive just in time. The ticket price was $1,800. I used money from the first advance payment of my patent licensing to buy a business class ticket. Not to show off. It's because a 14-hour economy class flight would leave my knees hurting for 3 days after landing, affecting my presentation the next day. This was the first time I made a purchase decision without having to constantly calculate the cost. Using money I earned myself. Feels a bit unreal. I landed at Pudong on Friday evening, and Lin Su came to pick me up. He stood outside the gate in the arrivals hall, wearing a red t-shirt and holding a cardboard sign with 5 words written in marker. Dr.Lu has arrived. As people passed by him in the airport, a few glanced at the sign, probably thinking he was a bit crazy. I smiled when I saw the cardboard through the glass door. After passing through the gate, He grabbed my suitcase and gave it a quick wave. Why so light? You only brought this little stuff. I'm leaving in a day and a half. That's still never mind. Come on. Let's eat first. What do you want? Anything. He took me to the barbecue restaurant outside the south gate of the school. The same place. The same second-floor private room. When I pushed the door open, I paused. Not because the decor had changed, but precisely because nothing had changed. The table's position, the menu board on the wall, the creaking air conditioner in the corner. All looked exactly as they had 3 months ago. Did you do this on purpose? I asked him. What? Choosing this place? He shrugged. It's good. And the owner knows me, so I get a discount. I didn't press further, but I knew he was doing it on purpose. 3 months ago, I was pitted here. 3 months later, I flew back from Stanford to eat skewers here. A kind of closure in a way. The forum the next day was held in the school auditorium, the same one used for the graduation ceremony. When checking in, the junior at the front desk flipped through the guest list and paused at my name. She looked up at me, her eyes slowly widening. Senior Lucy MHM. The one from Stanford. MHM. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. She lowered her head, checked off a mark next to the name, and handed over the guest pass with both hands. Hello, Senior. Her voice was several degrees softer than before. I took the guest pass, hung it around my neck, and walked into the auditorium. The seating has been rearranged, not in the rows of squares typical of a graduation ceremony, but with round tables scattered throughout the hall, and a small podium set up at the front. There are about 200 people in attendance, current students, teachers, and some alumni from the business world. Professor Chun waved to me from the front row. I walked over and sat down, and he patted me on the shoulder. Are you ready? Pretty much. Not nervous. What's there to be nervous about? He glanced at me and smiled, a subtle satisfaction that only a teacher feels when they see a student grow. The morning schedule includes 4 presentations, and I'm the last one. The first 3 were seniors from the 2018 cohort who work in quantitative trading, a senior from the 2020 cohort working on recommendation algorithms at ByteDance, and an older senior from the 2016 cohort working on chips at Huawei. After each person finished speaking, there was a QA session and the atmosphere was very lively. When it was my turn to go on stage, the murmur in the hall was louder than during the intervals of the previous 3 speakers. I could feel the density of gazes, not the kind of pity and awkwardness you feel at a graduation ceremony, but a density filled with curiosity and scrutiny. As I walked up to the stage, I glanced across the audience. Then I saw Zhou Hanwen sitting at a table near the back. He was wearing a gray casual suit, his hair neatly combed. There was an empty seat next to him. Su Wanqing hadn't come. His expression was calm. His hands were folded on the table, his thumbs slowly rubbing against each other. Our eyes met across 7 or 8 rows of tables. He didn't dodge. I didn't look any longer either. Turning back to the screen, I began to speak. The presentation lasted 25 minutes. The content covered my graduation project and the subsequent extension work at Stanford, starting from the computational bottlenecks in edge computing to the technical pathways for multimodal fusion and finally to application cases in real industrial scenarios. There was no mention of any personal matters throughout, but the audience below was very quiet. That silence was not polite silence, but genuine silence of people truly listening. The QA session lasted 20 minutes with questions coming one after another. At the end, Professor Chun stood up holding a glass of water in his hand. He didn't use a microphone, but his voice carried far in the quiet hall. I've taught students for 20 years, he said. Lu Xiao isn't the one with the best grades, nor the smartest, but he's the one I'm most proud of. He paused, because when no one believed in him, he didn't stop. Applause echoed through the hall. It wasn't the polite, scattered kind of clapping. It was weighty, deliberate applause, spreading from the front rows to the back. I stood on the stage, watching the people clapping. Some of the faces were familiar, classmates from 4 years of university, peers who had taken the same courses, younger students I had seen in the cafeteria 3 months ago. Those eyes held sympathy. Now, they held something else. After the presentation, Johann, when approached during the tea break, he carried a cup of coffee, walking at a steady pace, his expression maintaining a well-trained composure. Lucy I Sr. His mouth twitched slightly, as if trying to smile, but his lips didn't quite cooperate. Very well done. Thank you. A few seconds of silence followed. He lowered his head and glanced at the coffee cup in his hand, his thumb scraping against the side of the cup. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. Business-related. His eyes flickered, probably not expecting me to be so direct. My father's company has a project related to your research field. I know. He paused again. If you need patent authorization, go through the proper channels at Stanford's Technology Transfer Office. The contact person and email are on the university's website. His fingers tightened around the coffee cup. I wanted to do this in a personal capacity. Senior. I cut him off, my tone not heavy, but each word clear. At the graduation ceremony, you said you could give Wanqing the best life. His jaw tightened. Then give it to her. For business matters. Follow the business process. Your lawyer can contact our office. He looked at me. His lips slightly parted as if something was stuck in his throat, unable to go down or come up. 3 months ago, he stood on that stage holding a microphone, his gaze sweeping from above, landing on me sitting in the 7th row. Now he stands before me holding a cup of coffee, his fingers tracing circles on the rim of the cup over and over. You've changed, he said. No, I shook my head. I've always been this way. It's just that you didn't need to look closely before. He didn't say anything more. He turned and walked away. The liquid in the coffee cup wavered slightly. Professor Chan walked over from the side, looking in the direction Johann Win had left. Know him. Saw him at the graduation ceremony. The professor glanced at me. Didn't ask anything. Just patted my shoulder. Let's go. I'll treat you to lunch. The flight was scheduled for the next afternoon. Lin Shuai drove me to Pudong. In September, Shanghai had just experienced a rain, leaving the roads damp and reflecting the grayish-white sky. The cityscape outside the car window receded frame by frame. Elevated highways, office buildings, clotheslines in residential areas, and neon signs of roadside shops. Lin Shuai drove the car very slowly. Not in a hurry, he asked. No rush, just get there 2.5 hours early. The car stereo was playing some song. The volume turned down so low that only a faint guitar melody could be heard. You spoke really well at yesterday's forum. When Professor Chan said that, I almost clapped from the audience. You were there. I didn't see you. I was in the last row. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. I didn't want to distract you. I turned to look at him. He kept his eyes on the road ahead, a faint curve at the corner of his mouth. Do you remember what you said that night at the farewell dinner? You said you were a plane ready for takeoff. You've taken off now. I smiled but didn't say anything. The curve of the off-ramp pulled my body toward the car door and the seatbelt tightened against my shoulder. There's something I forgot to tell you. Lin Shu asked. What? After the forum ended yesterday, Su Wanqing posted something on her social media. She dug up a photo from graduation day wearing her cap and gown and added a caption. What did it say? She wrote, some mistakes are realized too late. Some people deserve a better ending. Wishing you well. I watched the raindrops lingering on the windshield, stretched into thin streaks by the wind. And then Zhou Hanmin commented underneath it with, so melodramatic. And after that, she deleted the post. The car fell quiet for a moment. The cool air from the air conditioner vent brushed past the back of my hand, carrying a hint of mint-scented car fragrance. Lin Shu asked, Don't show me her messages anymore, okay? And don't post about me in the group chat anymore. He fell silent for a few seconds, then nodded. Everyone who needs to know already knows. It's not because of that. I leaned back in the seat, watching the highway signs flash by outside the window. It's because it's no longer necessary. There's no need to be seen by anyone. No need to be proven by anyone. You don't need to make anyone regret anything to confirm that your choices were right. Those late nights in the lab at 3 a.m., the models you ran 1,000 times. The paper that got rejected 4 times before it was accepted. The days when you only slept 4 hours for 3 weeks straight. They existed etched into my bones. My code. The synapses of my cerebral cortex. These things don't need an audience. They are proof enough on their own. At the airport, Lin Shu helped me lift my suitcase out of the trunk. Your luggage is so light. Are you really only staying for a day and a half? I have a group meeting tomorrow afternoon. My advisor asked me to report on last week's experiment results. You. He hesitated, then shook his head. Never mind. I pulled up the handle of my suitcase and stood facing him. The wind on the airport departure level was stronger than outside, causing the hem of my clothes to flutter. Do you regret it? He suddenly asked. Regret what? Not slapping the admission letter right in her face at the graduation ceremony. I was taken aback for a moment. Then I laughed. It was a genuine laugh, the kind where the corners of your mouth stretch wide, your teeth show, and fine lines crinkle at the corners of your eyes. In the 3 months since arriving at Stanford, this was the first time I had laughed like that. That wouldn't have been me. He watched me laugh and couldn't help but smile himself, giving my shoulder a light pat. Get lost. Screw your Stanford. See you later. See you later. I turned around and pushed my luggage into the terminal. Security check. Immigration. Boarding gate. After completing the procedures, I sat down by the floor-to-ceiling window in the departure lounge. Outside the window, a Boeing 777 was parked with ground crew loading luggage and a tow truck slowly circling near the runway. I opened my laptop, pulled up the literature my advisor had sent, and started reading. When I reached the 3rd page, the announcement for boarding began. I closed my laptop, pulled up my suitcase, and walked toward the jet bridge. The floor of the jet bridge was slightly sloped, and the wheels of the suitcase hummed as they rolled across the smooth surface. The air inside the passageway was colder than outside, carrying a faint scent of aviation fuel. I found my seat, sat down, and fastened my seatbelt. The runway outside the window began to move slowly, taxiing, accelerating. The fuselage trembled slightly, and then the ground receded. The outline of Shanghai grew smaller and smaller in the window. Skyscrapers turned into matchboxes, elevated roads became gray lines, and the Huangpu River transformed into a twisting silver ribbon. Clouds surged upward, covering everything. Outside the window, only white, rolling, endless clouds remained. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes for a moment. A flood of images flashed through my mind. The blue glow of the lab screen, Su Wanqing standing under a transparent umbrella at the foot of the chemistry building, the gazes turning toward me at graduation, Zhao Hanwen's arm around her shoulder at the farewell dinner, Lin Qi's silly grin at the airport gate holding a sign that read, Dr.Lu has arrived, the crack on the dorm ceiling. I no longer needed to look at it. Those are all things on the ground, and my plane is already above the clouds. I open my eyes, turn on the computer, and open the code editor. The cursor blinks and jumps on the screen. I start typing on the keyboard. The crisp, crackling sound pops one by one in the quiet of the business class cabin, like a small, private fireworks show with no audience but myself. Outside the window, the clouds continue to churn. The plane continues to climb. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your views in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.